In Chicago, Democrats are hearing from plenty of Republicans who are not supporting their party and not supporting Donald Trump in 2024. Among them, former White House Press Secretary Stephanie Grisham. She was the first senior White House staffer to resign from the Trump administration on January 6, 2021, and of course has been a vocal critic of the former president over the last several years. Take a listen to some of what she said last night.
He has no empathy, no morals, and no fidelity to the truth. When I was press secretary, I got skewered for never holding a White House briefing. It's because, unlike my boss, I never wanted to stand at that podium and lie. Now here I am, behind a podium, advocating for a Democrat. And that's because I love my country more than my party.
The former Lieutenant Governor of Georgia, Jeff Duncan, also taking the stage at the DNC.
If Republicans are being intellectually honest with ourselves, our party is not civil or conservative. It's chaotic and crazy. And the only thing left to do is dump Trump.
Going on to make the case that he sees voting for Kamala Harris as the patriotic thing to do.
Look, you don't have to agree with every policy position of Kamala Harris. I don't. But you do have to recognize her prosecutor mindset that understands right from wrong, good from evil. She's a steady hand and will bring leadership to the White House that Donald Trump could never do. Let me be clear to my Republican friends at home watching. If you vote for Kamala Harris in 2024, you're not a Democrat, you're a patriot.
Former Republican New Jersey Governor Christine Todd Whitman, who also served as EPA administrator under George W. Bush, has also endorsed this Democratic ticket. She's also, of course, co-founder of the Forward Party. Governor, good to see you. Thanks for joining me at this hour. You actually came out a couple of weeks ago as part of a large chunk, as we saw, of Republicans for Harris to endorse the vice president in her bid. And at the time, you noted that Donald Trump's policies don't make sense. Are you seeing policies at this point from Vice President Harris that do make sense for you, and why?
Well, I am, because I'm seeing policies and drive and focus on the things that matter to people in their homes. It's recognizing the average person. It's talking about providing the kind of services they need, improving the economy, understanding that there's still things that need to be done. I mean, this convention has been something that, to me, has reminded me of the old Republican Party. We used to be the party of people. We used to be a party that wanted to keep government out of people's everyday lives. We used to be a party of hope and talking about how great our country is. And instead of what we're seeing from the current, it's not a party, I do believe it's a cult of Trump, it's not a Republican Party anymore. All we're hearing from them is, I'm going to take things away, basically. They try to pretend it's something else, but it's not. I'm going to ensure that I'm going to be a dictator from day one or on day one, doesn't matter. I mean, he's said he's not going to accept an election unless he wins. The Republican Party used to be a party that respected the Constitution and upheld the rule of law.
You noted that this reminds me of your old Republican Party, the former Republican Party. Is that what you're hearing from fellow Republicans who are not supporting Donald Trump, that they feel at home in this Democratic Party that they're seeing on their screen?
I don't think any of us would say we're totally at home. We're not. I mean, we're not going to agree with everything. I don't agree with everything that's going to be happening. But what I do agree with, and what I think Republicans have always believed in, is the rule of law and the Constitution. That's what makes this country great. And Donald Trump has no respect for either of those things. Constitution's an inconvenient document, and he can do anything he wants. The rule of law does not apply to him. That's wrong. That's not how our country functions. And it's not what we want in the White House.
Senator J.D. Vance spoke with my colleague Jake Tapper yesterday and was talking specifically about the record of Kamala Harris. Take a listen to some of that moment, if you would.
I would love for Tim Walz or Kamala Harris or anybody else to say that during the 3.5 years that Kamala Harris was vice president, here is the thing that she did to make groceries more affordable. Here is the thing that she did to make it possible to raise a family in this country. Or here's the thing that she did to secure rather than open up the border. Because they can't talk about Kamala Harris's record, they're creating a phantom of Donald Trump's leadership. The Donald Trump that I know and that the American people know, I think, produced really good results for the American people. It's a record to be proud of, and a record I'd like to get back to, frankly, because it was good for the American people.
I know you perhaps disagree with his assessment of Donald Trump's record there, but in terms of the record of Kamala Harris, how effective do you think that messaging is, especially for some Republicans and undecided voters at this point?
Well, it's obviously going to appeal to some people, even though it's wrong. I mean, inflation is going down. Don't forget that the Biden administration inherited a really tanking economy because of COVID, not all because of Trump, but certainly Trump ran up our deficit numbers. The economy was not doing that great. And now it's doing much better. She did negotiate the agreements with Mexico because she wasn't in charge of the border, but she was in charge of the long-term planning, and that's what she'd been doing, and she was successful in that. In fact, border crossings now are lower than they were when Donald Trump left the White House. So yes, they can say whatever they want, which unfortunately they do, that don't always have any grounding in actual fact. But and it will resonate with some who don't bother to check a little bit further. It's hard. It's not number one on everybody's list to be totally involved in a presidential campaign, which is what's so frustrating, because that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance say whatever they want to say, and they repeat it again and again, so people start to take it as fact. And in 99% of the time, it's just not.
As we heard from Stephanie Grisham last night, that's what she was told by the former president. If you keep repeating it, people will eventually believe it. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Thank you for taking the time to join us today.
My pleasure.